we realized that there's a short window of time to do something about climate change. And the team at 12 is not going to stand by and just let climate change happen.
We are a fossil-free chemical company built for the climate era.
12 is the carbon transformation company. We take CO2 and turn it into products that are normally made from fossil fuels.
To me, carbon transformation means taking the carbon dioxide that's already in the air and using that in order to make, carbon-based materials and fuels, instead of taking new carbon out of the ground in the form of fossil fuels that will ultimately end up in the air.
In the Industrial Revolution, humanity started to use carbon at scale. And as a result, we've dumped about 2 trillion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. More recently, technology has evolved to capture CO2, but that still leaves the question of what do you do with it once it's been captured? And at 12, we've got a new answer to that question, which is that you can turn it right back into the useful products that are currently made from fossil fuels.
Changing carbon changes everything.
I mean, when most people think of a chemical company, they think of like a large refinery, these billion-dollar assets that are at high temperature and high pressure. I never envisioned myself working at a company like that, and I'm not in a lot of ways. What 12 does is that we make CO2 electrolyzers. In fact, we make PEM-based CO2 electrolyzers, and those electrolyzers do CO2 electroreduction, and we have transition metal catalysts that are engineered to convert carbon dioxide into currently 2 new molecules that we're focused on, but ideally any molecule that you can make from carbon, hydrogen, or oxygen could be made in this process.
We kind of have this dual benefit of our technology where you can both address emissions that need to be either taken out of the atmosphere or generally prevented from going into the atmosphere, and also be able to displace fossil fuels in existing supply chains where we don't have better alternatives to date. We can actually take the emissions from those really difficult to abate sectors and transform the carbon dioxide into products that we actually need to live.
Our technology works like industrial photosynthesis. In the same way that a plant takes CO2, water, and renewable energy and turns it into oxygen and useful carbon-based products, our process takes CO2, water, and electricity, and we break apart the CO2 and water and use catalysts to recombine the elements to make new, more useful products that are currently made from petrochemicals.
Behind both of those processes are catalysts. You don't actually see the catalyst in a tree, and you can't really see our catalysts with the naked eye. And so in a lot of ways, we had to build the tree and then build all the infrastructure around it to be able to support this industrial carbon cycle.
We're building a team of people with deep experience and also with novel expertise in fields that are just emerging and only kind of coming out of academic labs today.
You have nanotechnologists, polymer chemists, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, project finance experts. It's a team unlike any that's ever come together before. We're all under one roof, working to have a gigaton scale impact that actually starts at the nanoscale. That's a unique place to work and to have an impact. We can do this. We have the technology. Not in 20 years, not in 5 years, but right now. We've built something that has never existed before, and now we're at an exciting phase where we're scaling it and continuously improving the performance of our carbon transformation system.
Ultimately, our goal at 12 is really to address carbon emissions, and we can't do that unless we get to very large scale.
We want consumers to see the CO2 made label and know that it means zero emissions, zero fossil fuels, and zero compromises in quality. That's because CO2 made products are molecularly identical to conventional ones. The only difference is that the carbon comes from CO2 in the air rather than from fossil fuels. CO2 made isn't about making a few niche products from CO2. It's about making everything around us. We can make all of these things from CO2.
If we can take the fundamental carbon molecule and put new atoms around it such that it can be useful in industry, we can fundamentally shift what's happening with our atmosphere, what's happening with climate change.
Companies have renewable energy targets that are mostly focused on their core operations. But we can expand those initiatives into their supply chains and actually use renewable electricity to make products that are currently made from fossil fuels.
This is the moment in which we are starting to build the future. We're starting small and growing and building the processes in place that will underpin that future vision that we all want. We can't get there overnight, and so we need all hands on deck to help build this future.